Hey guys, on today's video, I bought a 2001 BMW 330i Sport Package from the original owner. Hey guys, my name is Mike the Baldadonis and I buy and sell cars as a hobby, and I bring you guys along with me showing you the pros and cons of each vehicle that I buy. Now, I've been a BMW enthusiast for quite a long time, but I grew up in Everett, Massachusetts, and when I was a kid, I am 52 in a few weeks. So when I was probably around 14, 15 years old, there was a BMW dealership, a small one in Everett, Massachusetts, and there was one street down to the right. I would see it all the time walking to my friend's house. And I remember going by there just in awe of these cars. I could always tell the sport package ones versus the non-sport package ones. I didn't know what they were at the time, you know, the sport package or the M cars. I just knew they had different wheels, they had the spoiler on there, so I always would admire like the 6 Series, M6, M5, little M3s, or whatever the case may be back in the day. And I was always like, wow, those are pretty neat. But what was then acceptable was buying American cars. You were always seeing buy American, buy American, buy American. And when growing up, people that can afford those cars, we call them yuppies. You know, those are the well-to-do stock market type of people, you know, bankers, stuff like that. People that had, you know, high-paying jobs, so that's what they bought. Now, back in those days, I was into the old muscle cars, Camaros, the General Lee, stuff like that, any kind of old muscle car. So I always wanted a muscle car, but I always had that special, I don't know what it was, but it was pretty cool, because I remember going and walking by one day and there was a crowd of people, not a lot, there was just a small crowd of people, and they're like, get his autograph. I'm like, whose autograph? Now, Ray Bork from the Boston Bruins bought a BMW and he was sitting there signing autographs. I didn't know who the hell he was, because he was out of uniform, and I was just like, what's going on, catching up with everybody. I was like, oh, can I have an autograph? And he gave me an autograph. So I thought that was pretty cool. But later on, when I was around 20 years old, I went on vacation in Arizona, and my friend's uncle and aunt picked us up in a, I'm not sure what year it was, but it was a mid-80s BMW 5 Series. I just remember I was excited. I was like, I'm gonna get in a BMW. I shut the door and I was like, it's minimalist versus like the American cars back then, like the big old Cadillacs, the Buicks. You know, those cars were huge. This was that little tiny shoebox. And I get in, I shut the door, and I'm looking at the uncle and the aunt, and next thing you know, we're doing 110 miles an hour with the little automatic and the little 6-cylinder. I'm like, this is a 6-cylinder going this fast? It was super silky smooth. You didn't feel it. It handled it, like when we took corners, we're like, they didn't feel it, versus the cars that I grew up with, you know what I mean? And I was like, wow, this is freaking awesome. And I got to experience the car itself. They let me use the car a few times, and I felt like I was something special. So that was my first experiences with the BMW. Now, I've been buying and selling cars for quite a long time. I'm not a flipper. I'm not in it for the money. I'm a car enthusiast. I want to own cool cars. I just can't own them all. So I get to buy a few cars here and there, or own I had a 70.5 Z28 with 600 horsepower 5-speed, but it took me 19 years to get to that point. You know what I mean? So I do love cars. I have them for quite a while, and some of them I just sell really quick. It's what I feel. I'm into VWs, the Fox body Mustangs. There's all kinds of cars that I love. I love everything. But it took me a long time to start appreciating Japanese cars. So I've been looking for certain Japanese cars, but I just haven't found them yet. So I'm just not a car flipper. I am a car enthusiast. I just love all cars. Now, I bought my very first BMW at the age of 38. And I remember seeing it. It was a black 2002 330 CI, which is a coupe. It is the two-door version of what I just bought. And once I owned that, that was my very first car. It was like a BMW car, and I was like, wow, this thing is so awesome. Silky smooth. It wasn't the fastest car that was on the road, but it was well balanced. It was fast. It was great handling. It looked super good. I mean, people loved that car. And I did a couple tasteful modifications. I put H&R springs just to lower it just a little bit. I did put 18-inch tires, which in wheels. They were black wheels with the chrome lip around it, and I did a light tinted windows because that, you know, 16. How long ago was that? 16 years ago, maybe longer. When I did that, and I loved that car. I really did. And next thing you know, I'm buying BMWs left and right. E30s. I had a 74 2002 TII, which is fuel injected, the last year for the fuel injected TIIs, and you know, X amount. I'm not going to tell you how many I own, but I owned a lot. Okay, I just have a passion for them, and I'm on Facebook. I'm on Craigslist all the time, and I'm always looking, and that's what I do. I buy and sell cars as a hobby, and like I said, I tell you the pros and cons of each vehicle that I buy. But when I saw a 2006, today's Saturday, so last Saturday, it's online, and I'm looking at a 2006. Now I haven't owned that body style yet. I think it's very sharp, and it was a sport package. It had the 6-speed, and the guy that I was talking to was really cool, and he's like, well, there's somebody else gonna come and look at it. And next thing you know, 2 hours later, he texts me saying it's sold. I'm like, oh man. So I go back on Facebook. Boom, there's the 2001 330 with the sport package, just posted up 13 minutes ago. Call me. He finally calls me. His name's Steven. I asked him all the questions if you're going to buy a BMW, what to look out for. And I did ask him a few questions. He didn't know some of the things, and he did know a few things. He is the original owner. He bought it brand new, and it's been garaged all of its life. And just looking at the pictures, I was like, you know what? I'm not losing out. I go, can I meet you like right now? And after talking on the phone, and I told him what I do. I told him I have the YouTube channel. I love to have this car on my channel, and if you want to be a part of it, that'd be great. So he was like, just come look at the car. I was like, all right, cool. 35 minutes later, I'm looking at the car. When I pulled up, I was like, that's not bad, that's not bad. And as soon as you open up the hood, I knew right there and then how well this car was maintained. And it was just by looking at the engine bay, I can tell. It was spotless, and I was like, I'm just smiling. Like inside, I was happy as can be, and I have a smile on my face. And he also had all the records that he had for over the years. So he was able to tell me a few more things that, you know, I was hoping that were fixed, and they were. So we started talking, and this is where you need a garage, guys. This is where you need to put a car up in the lift, because you can't just crawl underneath the BMW and see things because the cars are so low. So I did offer him a price, and he wasn't accepting it, and I can understand. He bought it brand new. This is something that he loved and cherished for 20 years. And I get that, I understand that. But I'm there with money in my pocket, ready to buy the car, and we negotiated. I brought up my price a little bit more, and we just couldn't settle. And then when he got in his car, and I got in my car, and he was leaving, he backed up. And as soon as I saw him back up, I said to myself, I'm not losing this deal for a couple bucks. So I called him as he was leaving the parking lot, and I said, my last offer is this, and he accepted. And it was $50 less than what he wanted. He was a tough negotiator. I would call him a cheap bastard, but he's not. I'll say in fun that he is, but he's not. It's a well-sorted car. It does need some TLC, and we'll get to that in a second. So we're going to talk to Steve, talk about, you know, his ownership, and then we're going to talk about bringing it to the shop. So let's get to Steve.
So I'm Steve. I'm the owner of the E46 that the video is about. Original owner, owned the car, bought it in 2000. Have owned it for 20 years. Just a great car. Very hard to say goodbye to it. I mean, I've been a car guy since I was 12 years old, and my father taught me how to drive a 1963 Comet 3-speed on the tree. And you know, even back then, just being in a car, driving it, the motion of it, just, I've always been a car guy since then. And so I've owned a number of cars in addition to this E46. I owned a 72 Camaro, a 68 Camaro. Those were the muscle cars that I owned in high school. But I got introduced to European handling through taking a ride in an MG. And I remember whipping around that 90-degree turn at 30 miles an hour, and that car just hugging the road, which is very different than muscle cars, which did a great job of accelerating, but just in a straight line. And so I've owned, as I said, many cars. The muscle cars, the MG, I owned in my 30s. I owned a Mercedes 300 turbo diesel. The 40s was the E46. I own a 2010 Dodge Challenger. That's the car in my 50s. And all of these cars have special places, you know, in my life. In fact, they're like time machines to me. I get back in those cars, and when I drive them, they take me right back to that time. Now, the story on the E46, it was 2000. I was a software salesperson at the time. I still am now, and had a very successful year. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to walk into the dealer, literally write a check for the car, order it, and pick it up. And I drove that car for many, many years, for business and for pleasure, and just had a great time with that car. I've identified the car of my 60s. It's actually a C8 mid-engine Corvette. The problem I have is I buy cars and I just hold them for too long because I love them. And like I said, they're like time machines for me. So I've run out of room. I have no room to store these, to garage these. And my goal in selling the car was to try to find somebody who was going to take care of it, who could appreciate it, who had the same passion as I do for it. And you know, I put it online in the Facebook marketplace, and in a matter of, literally, it was like 5 minutes, Mike responded to the ad, and we got on the phone, and I knew just from talking with him, he's got the same passion that I do for the car. And it's very clear to me he's going to do the work that, some of the things that need to be done on the car. He's going to enjoy the car. And so I'm happy, he's happy, he's got a great car that he's going to enjoy. And it's time, as I said, for somebody else to enjoy the car. He's the perfect person to do that.
After I bought the car on Monday, the next day I was able to take it to my friend's shop. They're a BMW specialist. They do Mercedes as well. It's Auto Solutions, European Auto Solutions in Hudson, New Hampshire. They went through the car. I did a separate video about that. They show what to look for. And this car does need a few things, so here's what it needs.
So we're finishing up here with Mike's car. I'd recommend for him to start with doing the oil filter housing gasket, the Baldadonis line, maybe start thinking about doing these vacuum lines, the control arm bushings, or just replace the control arms. A lot of times it works out to the same price. Maybe think about doing that rear diff bushing as well. Apart from that, he's good to go. Definitely check us out on Facebook or our website, eastcoasteuro.net. We're happy to help you with any questions you might have. Feel free to give us a call.
love driving this car.
Many hours, so many good times in this car. I'm saying goodbye to my 40s. It's a great car. You're gonna enjoy this car, my friend.
This is Steve's last drive. He came up to my house. He wanted to be a part of the video, which I appreciate, and I love it because he really got into enjoying the last moments of owning the vehicle. Well, I should say driving the vehicle because I already bought it. So Steve, I want to thank you so much for dealing with me, and hopefully we'll be friends for a long time. I do love this car. I won't probably put a lot of miles on it, but because I do have other cars to drive. So if you're looking for this type of car, do your homework, watch the video that I did separately about what to look out for. And I want to thank Steve again. I want to thank the guys at European Auto Solutions. And till the next video, everybody, Baldadonis out.